Do you have, shall we say, credit? Is your credit score keeping you from doing what you want to do, like say buy a house or even get a new job? Today I'm going to talk about specific things you can do right now to fix your credit. So let's get to it. Before we get too far into this, I do want to point out that there is currently a proposal to overhaul the credit reporting industry and credit scores as a result. As of today, August 2021, that legislation is still pending, and until it changes, what we're going to talk about right here, right now, is still valid. If that does change, I'll make a new updated video to talk about the new changes. What is a credit score? Credit Reporting Bureau Equifax defines a credit score as a 3-digit number, typically between 300 and 850, designed to represent your credit risk, or the likelihood you will pay your bills on time. The idea is that the higher your score, the more likely it is that a lender will get their money back from you. There are different scores used for different purposes. The most widely used and recognized score is the FICO score, created by the Fair Isaac Company. The FICO scoring model has been updated several times, and there are currently over 50 different FICO scores, and a lender uses whichever one is more relevant to that lender's industry. The different scores were created to address industry-specific needs. Basically, a car lender would use one FICO score that is designed to better predict the ability of a borrower to make her car payments, while a mortgage company would use a different FICO score weighted in such a way to better predict the ability of a home buyer to make his house payments. There are other scoring models, such as the Vantage score, which was created by the 3 credit reporting bureaus in 2006 in order to compete with the near monopoly, really, of Fair Isaac Company. Each model weighs different factors differently and results in different scores for the same borrower with even the same or similar data. These scoring models use the data provided by the 3 credit reporting agencies, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. It's important to know that your credit history does not get reported equally to all bureaus, meaning that some creditors report to, say, TransUnion, but not Equifax. That's one reason why your FICO score used by different lenders, even in the same industry, may be different. Each score may pull the data from only 1 or 2 bureaus, or weigh the data from each bureau differently. So what are the factors that are considered when determining your credit score? The exact ratios are a trade secret, really, but it is believed that the data is weighted close to this. 35% of the score is based on your payment history. Okay, do you make your payments on time? If you have late payments, how many do you have and how late have they been? The number and amount of lateness of those payments obviously weighs against you. Also factored in here are public records like lawsuits, bankruptcies, and foreclosures. 30% of your credit score is based on credit utilization. Okay, now this is the amount of credit available to you that you actually use. If you have, say, $1,000 of credit available to you and you borrow 600 of that amount, then your credit utilization is 60%. The most beneficial utilization really is 30% or less. 15% of your credit score is your credit history. This factor looks at how long you've had credit. The higher the average age of your accounts, the better this is and less of a risk you are to the lender. 10% of the score is your credit use. Okay, this factor is based on the variety of different types of credit you have, like, say, mortgage or car loans or personal loans. The last 10% of your score is based on new credit. All right, this refers to recently applied for credit. Applying for multiple new accounts is interpreted negatively, so you don't want to apply for a bunch all at once and then check your score. So why do you need a credit score? Basically, the higher your credit scores, the more favorable terms you can get when borrowing money. That means lower interest rates, lower monthly payments, as well as more available credit. Unfortunately, in our highly automated and efficient world, credit scores are increasingly being used for other things that have nothing to do with credit. Okay, as a way to speed up decision making. Specifically, your credit scores can be a determining factor in a decision to hire you for a new job, for example. Does your FICO score accurately reflect whether or not you'll be a good employee? I don't think so. There is support now for limiting or eliminating your credit score's consideration in hiring decisions. Landlords may not rent to you if you have a low credit score. Also, utility companies look at your credit score to decide whether or not to require you to pay a security deposit for their services. Even cell phone providers look at your credit score to decide whether or not to provide you with a cell phone or a cell phone service. So how long does it take to fix your credit? That really depends on the exact tools we're using and what negative remarks we're trying to fix, and can take from a few weeks up to several years. And we'll talk about how long each step takes as we go through those steps. Speaking of steps, here they are. 1. Get a copy of your credit reports. We need to know where we're starting and what to focus our attention on. It's required that you be provided with a copy of your credit reports if you apply for credit and are denied, but we don't really want to do that. Fortunately, there are several free sources online that you can use to obtain your credit reports. You can use annualcreditreport.com and get a free copy of all 3 credit reports once per year. In fact, during the pandemic, you can actually get updated reports weekly through that site. You can also get free copies from creditsesame.com, as well as your TransUnion and Equifax reports through creditkarma.com. 2. Look for derogatory or negative entries on your reports. These are the ones that are bringing your score down and need to be fixed. First, look for late and missed payments. How late a payment needs to be before a lender reports it as late really depends on the creditor, but 30 days late is a good rule of thumb. If you have late payments, obviously make the payments to bring the accounts current. If you're only 1 month late and have the money to bring the account current, it's a good idea to call the creditor directly to make that payment and ask that the creditor remove the late payment entry on your credit reports. They don't have to do this for you, and sometimes this doesn't work. But the longer you've been a customer, the more likely they'll be willing to accommodate you, especially if you have a good excuse. The whole point here is to bring your accounts current as soon as possible and keep them that way. Second, look for collection accounts and charge-offs. A charge-off is basically an accounting term that refers to when the original creditor decides that you just aren't going to pay the debt and it is therefore uncollectible. This allows the creditor to write off the loss as bad debt on their corporate taxes. What many creditors do at that point is sell your account to a collection agency for usually pennies on the dollar. For example, if you owe me $1,000 and I charge off the debt, I can turn around and sell that account to a collection agency for maybe $100, sometimes less. That way it's not a complete loss to me, and the collection agency can go after you to collect the debt. This brings up an interesting situation in that since the collection agency bought your account for only $100 in this example, anything you pay above that $100 plus the collection costs is pure profit for the collection agency. What this means is that if you only pay half of the original debt to the collection agency, they're still making a pretty hefty profit. Even better, if the collection agency bought your account for $100 and spent $100 to get you to pay, anything you pay over $200 is profit to them. But the agencies do have a minimum amount they're willing to settle for, and in this example, it's probably not going to be $201. That's where your skills as a master negotiator come into play. Wait, you're not a master negotiator? I don't want to do a full treatise here on game theory and negotiation techniques, but here are a few tips. 1. Go into the negotiating knowing that you both want something from the other. And with a successful negotiation, you both win. That's to say that they want money from you and you want a closed account from them. This helps you go in with the mindset of strength or at least equality. Second, know down to the dollar how much you have on hand to pay. While some creditors will negotiate a settled amount and allow you to make payments on that settled amount, you're in a much better negotiating position when you can say that you can pay the settled amount in full in 48 hours. As opposed to a monthly payment for the next 6 to 12 months. Third, look to start negotiations at about 25% of the balance, knowing that the collection agency bought the account for pennies on the dollar. Realistically, the goal is to pay about 50% or less on the debt. Studies show, though, that the higher you start, the higher you'll end. And the quicker you come off your offers, the higher you'll end as well. So that means you have to go through the process. And don't try to short circuit that process because that'll just cost you more money in the end. Fourth, be ready to walk away if they won't participate in meaningful negotiations. I've seen many occasions when we had to say no only to get a call a few days later with an updated offer. Fifth, whatever you settle on, make sure to get it in writing and then follow through with what's written. Next, look at your credit utilization. Like we touched on earlier, the credit utilization is the amount of your credit you've actually used as a percentage of the total credit available to you. Like I said, FICO wants that to be about 30% or less. If your credit utilization is higher than that, you can do a couple of things to change that. Lower the amount you owe by paying off some debt, or raise the amount available to you by obtaining more credit. My personal opinion is that there are advantages to paying off debt and disadvantages to getting more credit. The main disadvantage being that the new applications for credit count against you in the new credit factor of your score. Lastly, look for inaccuracies in your credit reports. Studies have shown that between 20 and 50% of all credit reports contain inaccurate or erroneous information. That means you have to be diligent in keeping track of what's on your reports. As far as what errors could exist on your reports, there are several types, but the ones we want to focus on are especially problematic. These include accounts that aren't yours but belong to someone with a name similar to yours, or closed accounts showing as still open, or payments you've made showing as late or missing when they really weren't. Another inaccuracy I've seen a lot is when someone who's only an authorized user of an account showing up as an owner of that account. When you find these errors, they need to be corrected and you need to dispute the inaccurate entries. There's a link in the description to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's website with step-by-step instructions on how to dispute these errors on your credit reports. The basic process, though, is to file the dispute on the specific TransUnion, Experian, or Equifax website, along with the exact error, why it's an error, and then upload any documentation you have to substantiate the dispute. The credit reporting agency then must determine if your dispute is frivolous and then notify you as to why they believe it's frivolous. If the agency determines your dispute is not frivolous, it will pull the inaccurate entry and forward your dispute to the creditor reporting the error and give that creditor 30 days to confirm the entry on your report. If the reporting agency can't confirm the validity of the erroneous entry, it's removed permanently from the credit report and your credit score gets recalculated. These negative entries, though, have kind of a sneaky way of coming back and can get re-entered on your reports as the account gets bought and sold to other collection agencies. So make it a habit to regularly check your credit reports. Even if the reporting company confirms the validity of the negative entry, you can still include a written statement attached to that entry as an explanation of what happened, and anyone who pulls your credit report will see your explanation. If you have public records on your credit reports like lawsuits, judgments, or evictions, bankruptcies, or foreclosures, there really isn't much you can do with these, assuming they are being accurately reported. Public records stay on your credit for 10 years. But if one of these is reported in error, then definitely go through the steps above for disputing that error. If these are not reported erroneously, then the best you can do is minimize their impact by making sure they are offset by newer positive remarks like paying all of your debts on time. Keep in mind that the further in your past these negative remarks are, the less they will affect your credit scores. So time is your friend in this situation. Having gone through all this, the overall single best thing you can do to fix your credit starting today is make all of your payments on time. If you have the ability to make your payments, then get organized and make them on time. Set yourself a reminder or a calendar event on your phone that on the 5th of every month, for example, you will sit down for half an hour and pay your bills. Even better, set up auto payments through your bank app for all of your bills so that they get sent out on a certain day that will guarantee that the payments are made on time. You don't have to think about it. There's a saying that the best time to start something is 10 years ago. The second best time is now, so get started. If you found this video helpful, make sure to support the channel and my mission to help people with their finances by clicking the like and subscribe buttons below. Take care.